Due to the recent killing of George Floyd, we've seen more and more apparent how divided we are as a country and as a society. And it's weird because at a time like this, you'd expect the whole country to come together and condemn racism and condemn police brutality, and we should be all on the same page in terms of these things. However, it's more and more apparent how divided we are as a country, and a part of that is the fault of the media. The media has spent, as far as I remember, every second of this tragedy trying to divide us, trying to put statistics out there that are misleading, trying to put out really bad propagandas, and also trying to make the other side look as bad as possible. And it's weird because at a time like this, personally, I want the country and the entirety of the functioning society to come together and to agree, and that we should come together and fix these things. But for some reason, the media, as well as some people on both sides, are just trying to divide us more and more. So one way in which the media manipulates us is by limiting coverage of the things which we see, and it's really apparent in terms of the George Floyd protests, because they only want to cover certain things that fit their agenda. And this isn't necessarily misinformation, but it's more of like limiting information, so you only see one side. For example, you have certain news outlets trying to push the agenda that all cops are violent and all cops are racist by showing clips like this where they push an old man. And you also see clips where peaceful protesters are getting tear gas for no reason, and obviously these are definitely real issues. Police brutality is a real issue, but some of these news media outlets will only report these things to make cops look bad, to make America look bad. And on the other hand, you have things like this where you have protesters and cops coming together, having peaceful protests and having like nice cops. So you have one side where they're pushing the agenda that cops are bad, and the other pushing agendas that cops are good. And obviously, like I said before, this isn't misinformation because these are things that actually happens, but this is a way that the media limits what you see in terms of coverage. Like they wouldn't cover peaceful protests, they will only cover the riots. And you know what this does? This does something bad because cops are humans too, and when cops look at videos of riots, like people destroying cars, people looting stores, cops watch the news too. When they see this, it makes the protesters look really bad in the sense that the cops themselves think that the protesters will be violent, so they will result to things like this. And obviously this is not a justification for what they do. When you only show clips like this of people destroying things on the street or people looting stores, it really undermines the message of the actual protesters, and it makes these people look bad. And on the other hand, you have things like this where they show clips of cops and protesters coming together, and it's a good thing, but it's also misleading in the sense that they're trying to undermine the message of police brutality. They're saying that police brutality doesn't exist, racism doesn't exist, which obviously both of those things exist. So this is misleading in the sense that they only show you the good things, which the good things are good. They're definitely good things, but they don't show you the bad things in the sense of the actual issues. Obviously things like this happens, but when you look at the other side, you have people like getting tear gas, you have people getting shot, you have like old people getting pushed for no reason. So the key thing here is you have to cover both sides. You don't just cover the good things, you don't just cover the bad things, you cover both sides. So another quick thing, this is an easy way to find bias in a media news platform. So Fox News, obviously, it's very evident that they're more conservative leaning. So when you search up Tara Reid was the sexual assault accuser of Joe Biden. So basically what she did was she accused Joe Biden of sexually assaulting her like 20-30 years ago. So when you search Tara Reid, you have about 50,000 results on Fox News, because Fox News is conservative, they're Republican, so they want to make their opponents look as bad as possible. But when you look at Fox News and you search Christine Blasey Ford, now who is Christine Blasey Ford? Blasey Ford, she is the sexual assault accuser of Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh was the Supreme Court justice nominated by Donald Trump. So basically what happened was, again, much like Biden, before Kavanaugh was going to be appointed, Blasey Ford made a sexual assault allegation against him, and thus, there were investigations and things like that. And as you can see, it's very evident that Fox News covers Christine Blasey Ford like almost 50 times less than they cover Tara Reid. And why is that? Because Fox News is biased. And this is not misinformation, because these two things are both sexual assault allegations. But the most important thing here is that Fox News covers Tara Reid more than they cover Christine Blasey Ford, because Tara Reid fits their narrative that Joe Biden is bad and that you should vote for Trump, whereas Christine Blasey Ford doesn't. in the sense that Christine Blasey Ford was accusing a Republican. And the same thing can be seen in other media outlets. For example, when you look at MSNBC, same thing. If you search up Tara Reid, you got 25 stories here. If you search up Christine Blasey Ford, a lot more stories than they have with Tara Reid. And MSNBC, same story. They're more left-leaning, which means that they will cover more Democratic problems than Republican problems, which means that they will favor Democrats over Republicans. Thus, when you talk about Tara Reid, the Joe Biden sexual assault accuser, they will cover Tara Reid a lot less than they cover someone who accused a Republican of sexual assault. Same thing with CNN, for example. When you search up Tara Reid, 44 results. When you search up Christine Blasey Ford, 684 results. And this has little to do with how long ago the allegations were made. For example, you could say that Christine Blasey Ford, she made her claim like 2 years ago. This is why there's going to be more news articles. But again, this logic is kind of flawed, because if you look at Fox News, Tara Reid is so much newer than Christine Blasey Ford. So how did they manage to get 50,000 coverages on Tara Reid as opposed to like only 1,000 on Christine Blasey Ford? So something that's really popular in terms of reporting news and like showing statistics is showing statistics that are misleading. So for example, right here, Trump is praised for his economy in terms of jobs made and things like that. And he tweets about it all the time, like jobs, jobs, jobs. And you can see that is true, that he has added a lot of jobs. His unemployment rate has gone down. And these are all really good things, right? But the important thing here is that no single number can tell the whole story. So when you look at the amount of jobs that he has created, it's a good thing, and unemployment rate has gone down, and that's a good thing. But you know what? It's not a good thing. You look at the U.S. national debt. So what he basically is doing is he's cutting taxes and cutting regulations on big companies. And because of that, they don't give back as much as they used to before. And so what he's basically doing is he is sacrificing the U.S. national debt for unemployment rate and for jobs. And technically, having jobs and having a low unemployment rate is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. But it's important to see both sides. So, people who favor Trump, they will show you things like jobs have been added, that unemployment rate has gone down. And these are true. These are good things. But what's also true is that the national debt has gone down because of the regulations he's cut, taxes that he's cut, means that the companies aren't giving back as much as they used to before. So what I'm basically saying here is that Trump is basically sacrificing the national debt to make the economy look better. And it's important to know both facts at the same time, because like I said before, news outlets and people who favor Trump will only show you this. They will only show you the jobs and the unemployment rate, and people who dislike Trump will only show the national debt. But you have to see how these two things correlate. You have to see how one affects the other. And the same thing is true with things like the coronavirus. So the United States right now is at 2 million cases, which is more than double of any other country, which is actually really crazy. So obviously people will use this number to criticize Trump's administration and Trump himself because, 2 million cases, like seriously, that's a lot of people. But yeah, you also have to look at other factors. For example, when you look at this number, how did they get to this number? Now, this is the total cases, so it's not estimated cases. When you look at estimated cases, the United States might actually be lower than some other countries. But this is the total cases right now. And why is this number higher? Is because they've done the most tests. So when you look at the total tests, as you can see, the U.S. has done the most tests out of all of them. So the more tests you do, obviously, the more people you're going to find who has the coronavirus. But just looking at the test number is misleading, because you can't say that the U.S. has done the most tests. Generally, for things like this, you have to look at things per capita, which is per 1 million population. So when you look at this number, as you can see, the United States is actually pretty far down. They're behind countries like Russia, Portugal, United Kingdom, Belgium, Ireland, Italy, and countries like this. So you can't technically say that they've done the most tests. And when you look at the most cases, you also can't say that they have the most cases, because again, you look at the per capita cases. We look at total cases per 1 million population. When you look at this, they're slightly behind Spain, and they're not too far away from countries like Belgium and Ireland and Sweden. So when you look at statistics, what the message I'm trying to convey is that when you look at statistics, there isn't one specific one that's right. You have to look at all of them. You have to look at, because all of these statistics, they correlate with each other. One can depend on another. Like, there could be a lot of factors. When you look at one number, yes, it is a statistic and is accurate, but you also have to look at other numbers, other factors. So you can't just look at one number and make a conclusion. You have to, in my opinion, you have to look at more than one number. So something that the media also does a lot, and they mainly do it to Trump, is they put people's words out of context and they make people look bad. And I'm just going to show you this one clip, and you can tell me what you think about it.
He choked. He's another one who's going, oh, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
So you might think, wow, that's a pretty messed up thing for him to say. You know, he's mocking someone who died at the hand of racism and police brutality. You know, he is a bad person, right? Wrong. If you look at this clip was from February the 21st of 2020. So this was at one of his rallies way before George Floyd. So this is what has been happening. You know, I don't use Twitter, but I sometimes check Twitter, and I've seen like this clip floating around and people calling Trump a racist. And okay, this is just putting his words out of context, and this wasn't even anywhere close to when George Floyd was murdered. This was February the 21st. You're talking about May and February 21st. This was at a rally as well. So I don't understand how people can believe this. I really don't. And I've also seen people trying to say that he was mocking people who were dying from suffocation, which is not true. He was mocking Mike Bloomberg, which are people from the Democratic presidential debates, and they obviously lost. So that's why he was mocking them for quote unquote choking. So they weren't actually people who died. They were presidential nominees who didn't get the nomination.
But she was trying. Look, Bloomberg made a fool out of himself last night. He choked. He's another one who's going, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Don't ask me the question, please.
So let me just quickly show you how easy it is to manipulate people.
I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But I also detest gays and lesbians because I think gays and lesbians, it's unnecessary. Most gays and lesbians are unnecessary.
Wow, Obama's pretty homophobic, right? Wrong. I edited that footage.
I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. But I also detest the sort of bashing and vilifying of gays and lesbians because I think it's unduly divisive. It's unnecessary. Most gays and lesbians are simply seeking basic recognition of their rights.
So I hope this video shows you how easy it is to manipulate people in terms of media. And obviously, you know, the things that I've showed you, the 3 examples that I showed you, they're not twisting any footages. They're not like those are things that actually happen. They're not twisting footages in a sense that they're making fake news. You know, the news is real, but they're suppressing one side of the information that they don't want you to see to show you the other side. And I hope that by watching this video, you guys learn to kind of see both sides. Which is why, you know, when you watch news, don't just watch one news platform. Watch different angles. You know, you can watch CNN and then watch some Fox News to see what they're thinking about. You can then watch some like MSNBC or something like that. It's important to see both sides because by staying in an echo chamber, you're not helping anyone.